Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to today's video. Today I'm doing my first NFL mock draft, so make sure as always you hit that subscribe button down below. Like this video if you enjoy it. Comment all your thoughts and opinions down below. I read and respond to every single comment, so make sure if you have any questions, thoughts, or explanations for what your opinions are, make sure you put them down in that comment section down below. Like this video if you enjoy it, and let's get started with today's video. So today's video is my first overall first-round mock draft of this year, so make sure that you are subscribed for all the new videos. So this year is going to be a little bit more of an interesting draft. You have people that are a lot more higher on some prospects, and there's a wide range without a combine and with less access to players than usual. There should be some more variety. So my NFL mock draft may have some surprising picks in it. With the first overall pick, and the least surprising of all picks, is Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback out of Clemson. This is just the obvious number one overall pick. I think that Trevor Lawrence, in a team that needs a quarterback, that already has a good running back in James Robinson, that has a good coach in Urban Meyer, we'll see whether he succeeds in the NFL with a good offense from James Robinson to Laviska Shenault to DJ Chark, and all those offensive weapons. And you have Cam Robinson at that left tackle position. That should be a good offense. Here's the question mark, is the defense. So with taking Trevor Lawrence here, you do lack some defensive capabilities that you will need to address later on that draft. But we'll see where they go with that. On to the second overall pick. I have the Jets selecting Zach Wilson. And this video is being recorded after the Sam Darnold trade. So the Jets traded away Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers for a 6th round pick this year, a 2nd round pick next year, and a 4th round pick next year. So this obviously cements that the Jets are taking a quarterback. I think the best quarterback available is Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson will be a great quarterback and a good quarterback that they can take with the number 2 overall pick. I think he is good in a West Coast system. I think that he will be good with a run-centric, I think, style offense that Mike LaFleur brings to the Jets system under the Robert Saleh head coaching hierarchy. So I think that that will be important and necessary to look at the Jets as they continue on their run. Here's the other thing that I want to explain. Here's why Zach Wilson really could be beneficial to the Jets. So I have my whiteboard up here, and West Coast passing systems are a little bit something that some people don't understand, and they think they know, but, well, they don't. But as... Oh, oops, I spelled coast wrong. But either way, on to this. So you have the quarterback here, and you usually have a wide receiver out in a bunch system, which is this, a bunch system with 3 wide receivers out here, and then you have your running back, your 5 offensive linemen here, and usually a tight end on the opposite side of the field. This is called the field side. So this tight end will probably run some sort of out route over here. Maybe this guy runs an in breaking route. This guy runs a post up here, and this guy runs either shallow cross or a go route. Then what a West Coast system can do is it encourages these shorter to intermediate routes. These ones down here. So this is why usually they'll break in on this route. Tight end will be open. And here's why Zach Wilson will be able to succeed a lot more than other quarterbacks. Zach Wilson not only is going to be able to develop here with quick arm strength to hit the ball over here, but also with the arm strength and the ability to fit it into small pockets and systems with his arm strength right up in the middle or outside to the far side of boundary. So this is one of the harder throws to hit, but he can still hit it. I think that will be important to this system. On to the third pick. The Niners got this pick in the trade with the Dolphins. So this is going to be an interesting pick to see what they do here. But with the third overall pick, I have them selecting Justin Fields, quarterback out of Ohio State University. I think that Justin Fields is the best pick here, partially just because I think Justin Fields, with his 40 speed, and it's probably not going to be 4.41. Probably not. But he still has a low 4.4 to high 4.4 speed. And if you have that in the NFL, it is really going to help a Shanahan system that is already run-centric with a lot of West Coast abilities, with George Kittle at the tight end position, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel at the wide receiver position, and a bevy of running backs that can play great and just fit their system really well. So I think Justin Fields really fits into that West Coast system again, which inherently is good with the shorter passes, and I think that that's something that Justin Fields will be able to develop under Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe for a year, or if they trade Jimmy G, he will start this year, and I think he'll have a good year, and I think that he can lead the Niners to another Super Bowl run and maybe an actual Super Bowl. With the 4th overall pick, and I know this is going to surprise a lot of people, I have the Atlanta Falcons selecting Kyle Pitts. And here's the reason why. With the restructuring of Matt Ryan's contract to being one of the largest contracts in the NFL and cap hit-wise in the next couple of years, the Falcons aren't taking a quarterback at the 4 position. They're going to take a weapon to hopefully make a title run and to make a playoff run this year. And with a loaded AFC South division with a rising Panthers team, a really good Saints team that may be falling off a little bit, and a Super Bowl defending champ in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you have to focus on offensive weapons. With all of these teams being pass happy, the Falcons already have a really, really good offense. But the one thing that I think they could improve is adding the super weapon of all time, Kyle Pitts. I think that Kyle Pitts fits in perfectly at this position. I think that Kyle Pitts is so versatile, and I think he is able to fit into this position so well with a dynamic 6'6", 230-plus tight end that catches balls like a wide receiver, but also has the long speed, or catches balls like a tight end and has the long speed of a wide receiver. I think that it'll be a great pickup. With the number 5 overall pick, I know a lot of people think that Rashawn Slater is the best offensive tackle in this class, but I still think Penei Sewell is the best offensive tackle in this class. And I also want to remind people, both guys opted out of this season, so it's not like Rashawn Slater played this year. He didn't. So I just wanted to preference that. I think that Penei Sewell is the best offensive tackle here. Just an absolute beast. Just an absolute beast. I think the Cincinnati Bengals will take him at the 5 spot, and I think he'll be a great, whether you want to play him at right tackle or left tackle, or maybe if you want to push him in at guard. But if you're going to push him in at guard, I think the better pick probably would be to trade back and select a guy like blanking on his name, out of dang it, can't think of his name. Creed Humphrey out of Oklahoma, or Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. So with the 6th overall pick, I have the genius Dolphins selecting Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU. The Dolphins, I had them selecting Jamar Chase with the 3rd overall pick, but they moved back geniusly to the 12th pick with the Niners, and then moved back up with the Eagles to get their 6th overall pick. And now the Dolphins have a 6th overall pick and are probably drafting the same player. Even if they don't draft Jamar Chase, I think they're still going to probably draft the same player that they were with the 3rd pick, because I think that they're going to stay with Tua, and I think that they're going to hopefully make another run at the playoffs and hopefully make it this year, is what I think the Dolphins coaching staff and front office is looking for. It is a great thing. So I just want to praise them for that at some pretty good props. I wish Ryan Pace was as good of a GM as the Dolphins have in their front office and coaching staff. With the 7th overall pick, I have the Detroit Lions selecting Jalen Waddle, wide receiver out of Alabama. So, with the loss of Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones Jr., the Lions wide receiver core is awful. And I know the Lions probably are going to run the ball a little bit more with Kerryon Johnson and DeAndre Swift and Adrian Peterson in the backfield. A half-decent offensive line, I would say an above-average one, and a lackluster quarterback in Jared Goff. I think that you're going to see a lot of running the ball, but I think you need to have some deep threat in today's NFL, and I think Jalen Waddle is that. I think Jalen Waddle is a massive deep threat, and I think that he will be able to extend the Lions from winning probably. They're probably going to be one of the weaker teams in the NFL, especially with the schedule that they have this year. But I think that I think Jalen Waddle probably gives them one more win here. And I know that's a lot coming from just one wide receiver, and it's not like they're drafting a quarterback. But I think that is important to show, is that they're drafting a good guy in Jalen Waddle. With the 8th overall pick, I have the Carolina Panthers selecting Trey Lance. And yes, I know they just traded for Sam Darnold, and I know they have Teddy Bridgewater. I understand that. But when I'm looking back at this, and I'm like, man, they didn't give up a ton for Sam Darnold. And if Sam Darnold doesn't pan out, which is I would say a 50% chance, I think it's 50-50 that he pans out. I don't think it's a bad idea to select a guy like Trey Lance with the 8th overall pick. And I think that when you select Trey Lance with the 8th overall pick here, what it gives you is an opportunity, if you did mess up with Sam Darnold, it gives an opportunity for Trey Lance to sit behind a year or two under Matt Rule and probably a year under Brady Davis. Joe Brady, as their offense coordinator, develop and then hopefully become the long-term solution, because I just don't think that Sam Darnold's the long-term solution in Carolina. Maybe he is, but I think that Trey Lance is just a little bit better of a pickup here, and I still think that Trey Lance, I like that he'll be able to sit behind Teddy Bridgewater. I like this pick a little bit less after the Sam Darnold trade, but I still think it is the best move available. With the 9th overall pick, I have the Denver Broncos selecting Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker out of Notre Dame University. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, with the pickup of Kyle Fuller to that secondary, and with already having Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, this defense is going to be ferocious. This is going to be one of the best defenses in the league, and it is going to stifle a team like the Chiefs. And I point out the Chiefs very specifically. The Chiefs have one of probably the second best tight end in football, mostly because of age, in Travis Kelce. I think that George Kittle's number 1, and then I think Travis Kelce's number 2. So, with this, I think that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is going to be able to cover a guy like Travis Kelce, because he has the 40 speed to cover smaller tight ends, but he also has the length and the height and just this pure athleticism to cover a guy like Travis Kelce. I think he is a top 5 player in this class. He's not going to be selected as a top 5 player, but I think he is a top 5 player in this class just purely based off positional value and the value he'll have in the NFL. I know this is going to anger a lot of Clemson fans, and I live near Clemson, South Carolina, but he's just a better version of Isaiah Simmons. So I know that's going to anger a lot of people, but he just is. So I would compare him to a mix of, and I know I'm continue to use the Arizona Cardinals here, a mix of Budda Baker and Isaiah Simmons. He has the athleticism. He's able to come across the edge if you need him to blitz. He's able to really give out some hard hits and to cover tight ends, slot wide receivers, and all sorts of guys. I think that he's a great combination there. With the 10th overall pick, this is one that I have kind of swapped here. I had Caleb Farley before I heard about the back surgery going to the Cowboys, but this time I have Patrick Surtain, cornerback out of Alabama, going to the Cowboys. I think that this is just a great matchup here. With now you have Trevon Diggs and now Patrick Surtain added to that secondary. A secondary that without Byron Jones was not very good. Not very good. And I think this year, the Cowboys will probably be improved, and I think that with Patrick Surtain, they'll probably be a lot better of a team, especially in the secondary. When this year, to be blunt, the NFC East is very bad still. And nobody has a quarterback that is going to be able to throw the ball deep down the field. So if you're able to cover up the short stuff and just stop their passing game entirely, I think that that's going to help linebackers in Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch be able to just crash into there. They're just not going to have a passing game when you have Trevon Diggs and Patrick Surtain. I may be saying it may be Trevon Diggs, but either way. With the 11th overall pick, I have the New York Giants selecting Devontae Smith, wide receiver out of Alabama. So I think that the Giants, I know that they picked up Kenny Golladay. I understand that. And I think that most people are going to be like, whoa, why would you pick up another wide receiver here when you already brought in one and you have Sterling Shepard and you have Evan Ingram at the tight end position? But I'm like, well, Kenny Golladay is hurt like half the time he's in the NFL, so you kind of need another wide receiver who kind of replace him when he's injured as a deep threat and as just a boundary wide receiver. But you also, when you have Kenny Golladay, Devontae Smith, and Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram out there, Daniel Jones messing up is a lot smaller. He has a lot bigger margin of error, I guess I should say. He has a lot bigger margin of error. So I think that this is a massive improvement, and I think that Devontae Smith will really help not a great Giants team become a lot better of a Giants team. A team that almost made the playoff if it weren't for the Eagles just like literally trying to lose. But either way. Speaking of the Eagles, the third straight team in the NFC East to have a pick, I have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Gregory Rousseau, edge out of Miami, Florida. So here's the thing. Since Doug Peterson came in, and after the Super Bowl run, in which they won the Super Bowl, their defensive line has been awful, to say the least. It has not been very good. Fletcher Cox, all-pro guy, possible Hall of Famer, just a really good player. But guys like Derek Barnett, that they drafted out of the first round a couple of years ago, and just all of their free agent pickups, they've been pretty lackluster. So I think that when you pick up the most talented and with the highest potential edge out of this class, I think that Gregory Rousseau will really help a weak defensive line become a lot better of one, and I think that he will be a good pickup overall. With the 13th overall pick, I have the Los Angeles Chargers selecting Christian Darrisaw. I had to think about that, about Los Angeles, San Diego. Christian Darrisaw, I know a lot of people have Rashawn Slater as the number one offensive tackle, and everybody almost has Rashawn Slater as the second offensive tackle. Here's the problem that I have. Christian Darrisaw played this year. Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater both didn't. I think that Penei Sewell has the most potential in this draft, and I think that Christian Darrisaw is the most ready in this draft. So I'm like, well, why should I draft a guy that maybe has more potential, but this Chargers team that is, I would say, kind of ready to win now? You have the Broncos in this division, you have the Raiders in this division, and then obviously you have the back-to-back AFC champs and the Kansas City Chiefs in this division. So it's going to be a tough division, don't get me wrong. I think the Raiders are going to start falling off, or at least they're not going to be as good as some people projected them like a year ago. So, with the Raiders not being as good, and the Broncos probably being a year or two away, depending on how good Drew Lock is. So, I think that it comes down to the Chiefs. Can you beat the Chiefs? You need a left tackle, and Christian Darrisaw's ready. Let's say you pick up Christian Darrisaw. You'll allow a lot less sacks than you did. You win a couple more games, and you have a good wide receiver core with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. You have, I think, Hunter Henry left. But you also have you have a better offensive line. You have a great quarterback, a great up-and-coming quarterback. You have a better defense just because of the injuries. They're coming back healthy. I would not be surprised if this team competes for a wild card spot and has a little bit of a competition for the division, but I still think the Chiefs are probably going to run away with it. So, at the number 14 slot, we have my third offensive tackle coming off the board, Rashawn Slater, going to the Minnesota Vikings. I know this is going to be, I know a lot of people in the comment section are going to be like, you're an idiot, and Rashawn Slater's either the one or two guy. But I think, again, back to that, I think that Christian Darrisaw is the most ready right now, and I think the Chargers are ready to win now, so I'm picking them. The Vikings,
They just need an offensive tackle. Their offensive line sucks. It just sucks. And they already have a good running back, and it would be really good if you could keep them safe. So, like, as a Bears fan, don't draft offensive line. Don't draft Rashawn Slater because he's a really good player. But, yeah, the Vikings need to draft offensive line. With the 15th overall pick, I have the New England Patriots, and I know this is also probably going to ruffle some feathers. With the top 3 wide receivers off the board, the Patriots have to draft a wide receiver, and they're not drafting a quarterback. I know a lot of people have Mac Jones going here. I understand that. I completely understand that. But here's the problem. I just don't believe Bill Belichick's going to draft a quarterback in the first round. I just don't believe... You can tell me I'm wrong. I don't care. I just don't believe Bill Belichick is drafting a quarterback in the first round. So, one thing that he continues to draft and continues to miss in the first round is wide receivers. So I think that you need a surefire wide receiver pick here. And one of the most surefire wide receiver picks in this draft that isn't the top 3 guys is Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota. Rashad Bateman's going to be a great wide receiver. I just think he is. He's a great X wide receiver, and if you didn't know what an X wide receiver is, you have X wide receiver, usually the wide receivers over here, and the Z's in the slot. This is the slot wide receiver, and this is the number 1 wide receiver and the number 2 wide receiver usually. So, just so you know, X is usually the number 1 wide receiver, just so you know. It's going to be a little bit tough here to explain. The Patriots wide receiver core is awful. It's just awful. And if you want Cam Newton to have any chance at winning any games this year and maybe making a wild card bid, because they're not going to catch up to the Bills or the Dolphins, whichever one wins division, I think personally it's going to be the Bills, but the Dolphins are a really good team too. To be honest, this pick is more about you just need wide receivers and your team is awful right now more than anything. It just is. I'm sorry if you're a Patriots fan. I'm just kind of trashing on you, but still. With the 16th overall pick, I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting J.C. Horn, cornerback out of South Carolina University. I think J.C. Horn in his pro day, I think it was this week or a couple weeks ago, he had a really good pro day, really showed out, really firmed himself up as the 3rd cornerback in this class, and then Caleb Farley had his back surgery. So I think that the Cardinals, in a win-now type mode, which is a lot of people in this later part of the draft, they really need a cornerback that's going to be ready and not injury-prone. And I think Caleb Farley is a little bit injury-prone here, at least with the medical checkups being a little bit lax this year. I think that they're going to be more likely to pick a guy that is most likely not going to have injuries and not going to have problems. And I think that is J.C. Horn. I think that they pick him in the draft. With the 17th overall pick, I had the Las Vegas Raiders selecting Jalen Phillips, defensive end out of Miami. I have Jalen Phillips as my number 1 defensive end, but here's our edge. But here's the problem. Gregory Rousseau has the most talent in this class, so I thought that the Eagles kind of needed... They're not really in a win-now mode. They're not really ready to win, and I think it's better just to develop a guy with more potential and Gregory Rousseau than draft a guy that is ready now with a little bit less talent. So I think Jalen Phillips is just a better... I think that Gregory Rousseau was the better pick for the Eagles, but I also think that Jalen Phillips is better for the Raiders because the Raiders are kind of in a win-now mode. They're not really in a win-now mode, but the GM and the head coach are, so that means they are in a win-now mode. So I think that they draft Jalen Phillips, and I think he's the number 1 edge in this class. So, a really good pick there. With the Dolphins, I have the Dolphins selecting Zavon Collins, linebacker out of Tulsa. And I know a lot of people have Micah Parsons as the 1 and probably number 2 linebacker in this class, if not 1. I think Zavon Collins is just more talented and more ready. I just think that he's just a better player, and I think that he will be a better player overall. So I think that him at the 18th spot is a really good pickup, and I think he will be a good pickup overall. So I have him going number 18 overall to the Miami Dolphins, partly because you lose Kyle Van Noy, and you kind of need a replacement there. And I know Zayvon Collins isn't an exact replacement position-wise, but I think that Micah Parsons isn't really an inside linebacker per se in the NFL. So I think Zayvon Collins really fits the role because he's more talented and just a lot more versatile. So I think he is a better pick there. With the 19th overall pick, oh, and I forgot to say this at the beginning of the draft, and I know we're in the 19th overall pick already, but Mac Jones, there are no trades on this draft. The Washington football team selects Mac Jones. If there were trades on this draft, I would definitely have the Bears jumping over the Washington football team to like 18 or 17 or even higher, just because the Bears really, really need a quarterback. The football team kind of does, but they also still have Taylor Heineke and Alex Smith, and I think they signed somebody else. But Mac Jones, you need a quarterback in at the 19th overall pick. I don't think he'll probably be there with trade-ups, but I think that he is the best overall pick there. So, at the number 20 overall pick, I have the Chicago Bears selecting, I think, the most interesting prospect out of this draft, right tackle Tevin Jenkins. And I said right tackle for a reason. So, as a Bears fan, I know a lot about the Bears. A lot of people have not heard much about Tevin Jenkins, but I think it is important to hear a lot about Tevin Jenkins. And if I spell James Daniel's name wrong, whether it's Daniel, you switch the I or something, I'm sorry. I don't know how to spell Mustafa, and I'm a Notre Dame fan. That is bad, but I'm just going to put Sam there because I just don't know how to spell Mustafa. White hair. And right now, you probably have Bars, I think, as the right tackle. Maybe a Fetty, but I just don't want to spell his name because I'll spell it wrong. So here's the thing. Tevin Jenkins is a right tackle, and I think he wants to stay as the right tackle. I think it's probably better not to move Charles Leno to right tackle because when you're a right tackle, you have to set up completely the opposite of how you've been trained to do as a left tackle. So I think it's better to draft the right tackle here. And guess who the best right tackle in this class is? Tevin Jenkins. And guess who's on the board? Tevin Jenkins. So if you put this up here, and you put up a guy in Tevin Jenkins, that just his run blocking ability is just fantastic because he just pancakes guys like left and right. This does not look like an intimidating all-pro caliber line, but here's the thing. Daniels, Whitehair, and Jenkins are all extremely good run blockers, extremely agile and strong. And when you have a zone running scheme, which I'm going to explain what a zone running scheme is where you run the ball more to the outside guard spot in the zone running scheme, or even more where the center gets up to the second level with the linebackers and blocks him, or the guards pull. You have the pulling guards that come up here to follow the running back, which is RB. Follow the running back, and they leave. So that's the zone blocking scheme. If you're able to have Whitehair and... Oh, I just realized I spelled his name wrong. Whitehair and Jenkins on this side, and you can run the zone running scheme to the right side, I think that is going to extremely favor you, and I think that that'll be a great pickup there. So I think Tevin Jenkins, a man with a mission. If you want to check out a great video on Tevin Jenkins, look up Brett Coleman's The Most Violent Football Player in this year's draft. Look that up. Great video. Explains a lot about him and why he's a great draft pick this year. With the 21st overall pick, I have the Indianapolis Colts selecting Caleb Farley, cornerback out of Virginia Tech. I have them selecting Caleb Farley because I don't think the Colts really believe in Rock Ya-Sin, which is their cornerback they drafted at Temple. I think it was 2 years ago in the second round. And I think the Colts, a playoff team, could really use another cornerback opposite of Justin Blackman, I think it... Or no, that's their safety, I'm sorry. They could really use another cornerback, and I think that Caleb Farley just fits that position. So I'm sorry I'm quick on that, but I just think that he's just a great player available. and probably the best cornerback in this class, but has back issues, so we'll see. With the 22nd overall pick, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting a Z Ojulari, edge out of Georgia. This is just a perfect fit. Like in this draft, I tried to make sure I memorized the draft order just because my memory is just good and I just understand. I just memorize things well. But I try to make sure I go one pick at a time and don't look ahead, because there are certain positions where I love players to go certain places, but they really shouldn't be. So I try to make sure that they don't do that. So by the time I came up to the 22nd pick, I'm like, wait a second. The Tennessee Titans, the one thing they really need, especially after I think Jadeveon Clowney left this year, is an edge rusher. And even if Jadeveon Clowney stayed, they didn't have a speed rusher. And Z Ojulari is just the perfect fit. When I saw that pick come up, I'm like, yes, perfect fit right there. Z Ojulari, just a perfect fit, really fits into that system well, and I think it's going to be a great fit there. 23rd overall pick, I had the New York Jets selecting Najee Harris, running back out of Alabama. Najee Harris is the best running back in this class. And I know, again, I live in Clemson, and a lot of Clemson fans are going to dislike me for this. My best friend is a Clemson fan and is probably going to dislike this opinion. Travis Etienne, well, here's my thing about him. In bigger games against Notre Dame in November, the first matchup, against Alabama in the national championship game, and against Notre Dame in 2018, except for that one run at the very end of the game where Notre Dame obviously gave up, against Pitt, against Syracuse, against all of these teams that had good running games, Travis Etienne kind of fell off as a running back. And I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion. I think he is a great 40-time straight dash speed. He is going to beat everybody. He just is. He's one of the fastest players in football, in NCAA football, and probably going to be one of the fastest in the NFL. Here's the problem. He's a great pass catcher out of the backfield. He has great 40 speed. Here's the problem. I don't think he can run in between the tackles, and I think Najee Harris can. And I think that's something the Jets kind of need, is a zone running scheme where you run outside and inside the tackles, but I think Najee Harris is just a better running back, and I think that, I know it's going to be unpopular, I think Travis Etienne is going to be a bust. But either way, with the 24th overall pick, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting Samuel Cosby, offensive tackle out of Texas. So I really love Samuel Cosby. I think he is a great offensive tackle. If you want a great video on him, select Sanji Tour. I think that's how you say it. I'll try to put the link in the description of his video of Samuel Cosby. Great video. Make sure you go check that video out if you want like an in-depth analysis on his game technically. Great. I think he has great potential. I think the Steelers will really like him as a player, and I think he really fits into their system well. With the 25th overall pick, I picked the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Creed Humphrey, center out of Oklahoma. And I'd say inside offensive lineman because I think he can play guard if you want him to. Here's the thing. I think Trevor Lawrence, he needs a lot of things to be successful in the NFL. And not because he isn't a good player, but just because look at Andrew Luck, look at who's another good example? I can't think of what, like Cam Newton for a couple of years there in Carolina. But you need an offensive line, and Creed Humphrey is the best center in this draft, the best inside offensive lineman in my opinion. Just going to be a great player. Just lock up that inside part of the line. You already have Cam Williams. Just a great draft pick right there. With the 26th overall pick, I have the Cleveland Browns selecting Kwity Paye, edge out of Michigan. I think that he's just the best player available here. I think he's the most technically sound edge rusher in this class, so I think that he'll be a great pickup there. And I think the Browns need another edge rusher opposite of Myles Garrett, and I think Kwity Paye really does a good job at locking that position up. With the 27th overall pick, I have the Baltimore Ravens selecting Kadarius Toney, wide receiver out of Florida. With Bateman gone, with Rashad Bateman gone a while ago, the Ravens still need another wide receiver, and I think drafting Kadarius Toney is the answer to that. I think he is an electric wide receiver, and with Hollywood or Marquise Brown having drop problems, I think Kadarius Toney is not going to have those, and I think he has the same explosiveness, so I think that he'll be a great pickup there. With the 28th overall pick, I have I have the New Orleans Saints selecting Christian Barmore, defensive tackle out of Alabama. I think that Christian Barmore is a great pick here, and I just think that he'll be a great overall pick because he is an edge rusher that I think the Saints' rush defense really slowed down later on in the year, and I think Christian Barmore, great pickup there. In a 3-4 scheme, he'll be great. In a 4-3 scheme, he'll be great. I think that he'll just be a great pickup there overall because I think he's a great run blocker and a great pass blocker, or great run stopper and a great pass rusher. And I think he showed that in the Ohio State game. I have the Packers selecting number 29 overall. I have the Packers selecting Greg Newsome, cornerback out of Northwestern University. I think Greg Newsome with his 6'1" height, I think is going to be a great addition to the Packers secondary with a pretty small Packers secondary. I think they signed Kevin King back, but, Greg Newsome's just a lot better than Kevin King, just plain and simple. So I think Greg Newsome's a great upgrade there at the cornerback position because you had a shorter cornerback and Jair Alexander, and I think that you need to add another cornerback in order to be a successful NFL team, and probably a taller one. And I think Greg Newsome, even though he's an extremely tall, he is taller than most cornerbacks on the Packers depth chart. With the number 30th overall pick, I have the Bills selecting Travis Etienne. And I know I said Travis Etienne has bust potential, and all prospects have bust potential, even Trevor Lawrence. But here's the thing. The Bills, when you put Travis Etienne in that system, his bust potential and his bust impact lower dramatically. Because, bust potential is really hard to have a bust running back when your quarterback is Josh Allen and your wide receivers are Stephon Diggs and just a myriad of guys from Cole Beasley to just a bunch of other guys. You have the UCF wide receiver, I think. Just a lot of great overall guys. But I think that you have a running back that can catch passes out of the backfield. I know they have Zach Moss and Devil Singletary to play running back, but Travis Etienne's just better. He just is more talented. And instead of having to re-sign a guy like Devin Singletary or Zach Moss, I think, as the Packers showed this year, I think that you can draft another wider running back and it be successful really well. With the 31st overall pick, I have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting Jalen Mayfield, offensive tackle out of Michigan. Plain and simple, the Kansas City Chiefs need an offensive tackle, and Jalen Mayfield is one of the most technically sound offensive tackles. And I think that shows with the Kansas City Chiefs having just left Mitchell Schwartz, which was probably the best technical offensive tackle in the NFL when he played. So I think Jalen Mayfield will be a great upgrade there. And with him across from Lucas Niang, I think he'll be a better offensive line than most people expect. With the 32nd and final overall pick in my 2021 first round mock draft, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting Carlos Bashman Jr., edge out of Wake Forest. The Bucs run a 3-4 scheme, and if you don't know what a 3-4 scheme is, I'm not going to raise the top part. A 3-4 scheme just means you have 3 down linemen and 4 linebackers. The Bears have the same 3-4 scheme, and the Bucs also do. So usually you have 2 defensive ends and a nose tackle. The nose tackle is Villa, and you have 2 defensive ends here, and you have 2 linebackers, one of them being Shaquille Barrett, and another one being whoever it is for the Bucs. And then you also had Dominican Sue and Jason Pierre-Paul. But I think with the addition of Boogie Basham, whatever you want to call him,
is a great addition there, and I think he'll replace Jason Pierre-Paul at the defensive end position. I think he'll be a great upgrade. Well, I know this was an extremely long video. This was 40 minutes long. So I just want to thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you guys for all your support. Please hit the 2 videos down below. Hit the subscribe button up here. Make sure you are hitting that notification bell. And as always, have a great day. Bye.